Hi, we're here for the first lecture for rural research methods. This is the YouTube video portion that should align with the first lecture. Obviously, this is the first time that everybody's doing this, so everyone needs to be a little bit patient and have a little bit of flexibility in terms of what I'm capable of doing, and I assume these will get better as the semester goes. But the idea is that these are to help with the lecture slides that are posted on CourseLink. So what I've done is I've got the slides open on my screen, and I'm just kind of going to go through them at the same time. So in terms of the lecture overview, we're going to cover some basic stuff today. We're going to go through the course information and then get into some of the actual information, starting with theory and research, inductive and deductive approaches, epistemological considerations, ontological considerations, influences on social science research, research question tips, and then if I have time, I'm going to get you guys going on a bit of an exercise to think of while you're at home. I think it's really important that everyone understands that because of COVID-19, everything is different this semester. I know you all are aware of this, but just like students have to adapt to this, faculty have to as well. And I give you my word that everyone's doing the best they can. That being said, we're not really sure of how everything's going to go. Typically, this was taught in a 3-hour block on Tuesday mornings. However, this, as it states in your course outline, will be delivered in a hybrid format. So there'll be some synchronous and asynchronous components. The course will include some pre-recorded material like this, some live lecture bits. That's the Microsoft Teams component on the Fridays, or on the Tuesdays, sorry, and a bit of a mix. The class will be a mix of new information, online discussions, and practical research exercises. And the goal is to enable you guys as students to apply what you've learned. While the delivery of this course has changed, this remains a hands-on, a hands-on applied course. Student participation is required. In addition, the university requires that students are well prepared before they're actively involved in research. All of you that are going on to do work, whether that's in the thesis stream or the major research paper, will be conducting work. And then some of you who are in the course-based will be working as research assistants. So it's critical that everyone gets exposed to research methods. This term, we're going to explore one topic, just like I do every year. The term topics, and it's crucial that you attend classes. And by that, obviously, I mean go through the lecture material. The one advantage that you guys have over previous years is you can kind of do this at your own speed. So yes, while I will be available on Microsoft Teams, you all. So the course code, in case you don't know, is RPD 6170. This is a required course for all students in the Rural Planning and Development program here at the University of Guelph. It is online, like I've mentioned, so you've got a Microsoft Teams element, which you all have been invited to, this CourseLink element that you all have, and then this YouTube channel. And the YouTube channel is really my attempt to make things as easy to access information as possible. In terms of contacting me, email is by far the best way. So it's just my first name, period, my last name at uofguelph.ca. I would ask that you, in the subject line, put our RPD 6170. I do teach another class, and there are a lot of students in that. So in an attempt to make it easier for me to know what the email is about and to organize things, I would ask that you do that every single time. My phone extension on campus is 52521, so you can call and leave a voicemail. I do check it really, really often. And in terms of office hours, I'm going to use the Teams. So every single Tuesday from 9:30 until 11:20, I will sit on screen and wait. If people want, they can sign in and talk to me, ask me questions, whatever. If no one does, I'll just be working and it'll act like office hours. The reason it's 9:30 and not 8:30 because most people will not be there. So rather than me just sit there for an hour with no one coming in, I'll go a start time at 9:30. If that doesn't work with you, which obviously it does work for everybody because you've signed in for a course at that time, student in Vancouver, so I don't expect you to sign in at 5:30 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning to be there for a 9:30 kickoff time. So there's a little bit of flexibility. The description is the same as it is in the course outline. I have nothing to do with the course description. I didn't write it. I have nothing to do with that. But the part that's important there is that for you to know, the course provides an introduction to research methods. And I know some of you have taken a research methods, maybe in your undergrad classes. Most of you have not. The thing that's important for all students to understand is that everybody coming into this program comes from different backgrounds. And as a faculty member who teaches a mandatory first year class, I kind of have to make sure that everybody's on the same page. So for some of you, this will be a little repetitive, at least in the beginning, and for some of you, this will all be brand new. But I guarantee that everyone will get a lot out of this class. It's a good class. As I've stated several times, I really like research methods for a variety of reasons. But the big one for me is because research methods allow you to get the data that you want. It allows you to design your research project in a way to ensure that your results are credible, that they're valid. And without good research methods, no one will believe you. Research methods cover, quantitative and qualitative data acquisition methods. We're going to be doing both this semester. Next semester, when you take the second part of this class, I think it's still called quantitative methods or quantitative techniques. I'm not even sure, but Nick teaches it. It's imperative that you've gone through this class to be able to go through his. Okay, so it is an important class, and I'm not overselling myself. But I really think it's a great class. I find it really, really tangible and useful. The feedback usually is that. For people who don't know me, I am a graduate of this program. So I took this class a long time ago. And then I went on to do a PhD, and my PhD supervisor also really, really likes research methods. And I think that's where my enjoyment of them stems from largely, but I work really hard in this class to ensure that you guys get something out of it. My research background, I look at concepts around resiliency in a nutshell. So rural communities, rural development, extraction, northern development, and I largely focus in Canada, but I've done projects kind of in various locations around the world. Yeah, I guess that's really all you need to know about me for this point. There's a couple of learning objectives that are listed on your slides, also in the course outline. And then in the course information, the organization of the course, it still states that it's a 3-hour block, even though obviously it's not a 3-hour block. I kind of have to because it is scheduled that way, but we've got quite a bit of flexibility this semester. In terms of your course assignments, as per standard year, there are 4. The breakdown this year is obviously a little bit different because I can't get you guys doing too much group activities because, well, obviously you can't be in groups. So there are the 4 standard assignments. The first is a literature review. The second is a quantitative survey. The third is a qualitative interview. And the fourth is his final assignment. So putting everything together. The lit review is, I think every single component is really critical. So we're going to go through each one. We're going to start with the lit review. It's worth 20% of your grade. It's due on October the 3rd. Everything is to be submitted, obviously, on course link as well. So for your lit review for this assignment, you will describe and critically assess, contrast, synthesize peer-reviewed journal articles related to the following topic: university student experiences of COVID. Every single assignment will be related to this topic. That way we're allowed to kind of compound each other, build and snowball, and at the end of it, put together this really great little project, I hope. The assignment consists of the following tasks: select search terms that can be used to identify relevant peer-reviewed journal articles and grey literature, search for and identify at least 4 relevant peer-reviewed journal articles, and as many grey literature articles as you think are useful, and write a lit review that presents the current knowledge, including substantive findings, as well as theoretical and methodological contributes to information on the ongoing pandemic. Lit reviews are boring. There's no way around it. They are very, very, very boring. But they are the most important step of a good research project. They absolutely allow you as a researcher to set the stage. And, when you end up defending a thesis or any sort of, peer-reviewed piece of literature, of research, if your lit review is done poorly, if you've missed some of the major pieces of literature, nothing will make sense. So this is a very, very important piece of the puzzle. We have someone from the library preparing some documents that she said would be ready on Friday, but they're not. So I'm just kind of waiting. So as soon as they're ready, I'll upload them to give you some tips about this. And I expect lots of questions about the lit review. Again, some of you have done a lit review, literature review, and some of you have not. A literature review is not an annotated bibliography. These are not the same thing. And if you are unsure what the difference is, please come talk to me. I expect lots of questions about this, but yeah, so that's your first assignment. It's worth 20% of your final grade. The second assignment is your survey. and it is due November 3rd. And it is just what it is. What it sounds like. You're going to do a survey, and for this assignment, you'll administer a quantitative survey via Qualtrics. Qualtrics is most of you have heard of SurveyMonkey. This is a better program. SurveyMonkey. The difference is SurveyMonkey is an American company. Qualtrics is a Canadian, or at least it's got Canadian sections of it. So the University of Guelph does not recognize SurveyMonkey as a good program because the data is stored offshore. And you can download Qualtrics free, and we'll go through this, and there's more details provided on the course outline, but it's also worth 20%. The third assignment is the qualitative assignment, and that is interviews. You will complete 3 interviews. You will design the questions yourself. The questions will be based on your lit review. It's all going to kind of compound on each other, and then you're going to write a report on your interview experience. So that's your third assignment. There is a draft guide that will be uploaded as well as soon as I get a chance. I'm having a little trouble with CourseLink, but I'll get it up there. And for this, you're going to have to interview 3 students attending the University of Guelph. Interviews can be conducted over Zoom or Microsoft Teams. And then you'll transcribe and analyze those data as well. If you're wondering where I am today, I'm in my trailer. You guys, I think, heard somebody ask about it in your list of questions. Her name is Loretta. She's a 1976 beauty. And your final assignment is worth 40%. It's due December 14th, so after classes end. And this is the equivalent of your final exam. For this assignment, you're going to submit a cohesive research project based on what you did in this class. And I mean, the idea here is that you'll kind of be able to work through all the different stages of research. So all the 3 components will be there for this assignment. All work has been completed already. The assignment is all about knowledge mobilization and data presentation. One of the most important skills as a researcher is the ability to mobilize and translate information. It's super critical and presented in an effective way. So we're going to get back to that as the semester goes as well, but that's worth 40%. Now, in terms of the course outline, I mean, we technically, or formally, I guess, have class every single Tuesday from 8:30 until 11:20. That is a scheduled block of time. But like I've said, I will be available on Microsoft Teams from 9:30 until 11:20 to answer questions, so so forth. And oh, I just got an email. That was with the Bing, and that was from the librarian. So in the email, it says, here are the course materials. So I can't open it right now, but as soon as I can, I'll post them. And every week we have an assigned topic. It is out of the textbook that I've assigned. I've got quite a few emails about the textbook. It's a good book. I really recommend you buy it, the 5th edition. I'm going to see if I can have a copy put on hold at the library and course reserve. I don't know how that'll work, but I can figure out how to do that. And then there's a course schedule that is listed on your course outline, as well as in the slide on slide number 13. We've class every week except for the week of October 6th, because the Ontario Professional Planning Institute's conference is that week. So I've given you a break, which we do every week, every year as well. There's no class on October 20th because of the fall break associated with the semester as well. So every other week, though, you've got a standard one. The only exception is it says November 3rd, I'm just realizing on the slide, so I'm going to change it so it doesn't say that. But on December 3rd, it's making up a missed lecture. Okay. What else do I have to tell you here about this? Course policies. I mean, a lot of these don't make sense because we're not going to be face to face, but basically the idea is everyone deserves respect. And if at any time during one of the Microsoft Teams discussions, if I feel like someone's being rude or inappropriate, I'll get pretty angry about that. Okay, everyone requires or deserves the same amount of respect as everyone else. And I'll take care of this on a case-by-case basis, but just please be nice. Everybody at the end of this, you're going to get a number grade. Cumulative course mark will be calculated. You can just kind of follow along with your grades on CourseLink, because I'll post them as we go. It is important that I have a late policy. If something is due on October 3rd or 6th, on October 6th, 10% per day. Weekends count as 2 days, so it's 20%. No assignments will be accepted after 7 days. Word count, if I've asked you for 2,000 words, and if you can go plus or minus 10% of that. Outside of that, it is 10% deduction as well. So I like to start most of my classes with some questions, and I do it because I think, especially at 8:30 in the morning when I am teaching this face to face, it's hard to get people engaged and people wake up. So I like to ask a whole bunch of questions, and so I've left these questions here because I think it's important that you have a better idea of how I normally would, format this course. Um, and I want to ask about what you took in your undergrad and what you're hoping to get out of this, and how many are you a thesis or MRP or course based, and is anyone considering switching? Are you becoming planners? What's the long-term goal? And I like to have a little discussion about that. Oh, this is another somebody in the class actually emailing me, so I'll respond to you after this is all done. So we start this class with a discussion about theory and research. Theory is a critical component of any research project. So I ask a question, what is theory? Well, theory is an explanation of some sort of observed regularity or some sort of pattern. That is what theory is based upon. There are a couple components of theory, and they are usually the key terms of whatever that theory means. And depending on what theory it is, that is what the terms kind of reflect. And there's lots of examples that you can go through, but anytime you're talking about, say, I don't know, all of you come from different backgrounds, so your background theory is different. My PhD research looked at environmental justice, so all my justice theory was around equity and equality and components around ensuring fairness, and those were kind of the theory that was based a lot of my thesis. My current research, a lot of it is around resiliency theory. So what makes communities resilient? What is resiliency? I use a transformative resiliency framework. So those are all, the terms that we discuss. Other ones you can talk about outlines the characteristics of some sort of phenomena of interest. So you want to set the parameters, and I can't stress this enough. When you are discussing something, you want to make sure that you're the expert in the room. So you set the parameters of what the phenomena is that you're discussing. You also have these rational statements, connect two or more variables so that knowing the value of one variable conveys information about the other. Okay, and all of this is in your book as well, so I'm just kind of going through this quickly. Types of rational statements and theories, you've got a couple of different primary ones. You've got deterministic, means the two variables always go together in practical ways, and then probabilistic, the two variables go together in some degree of regularity, but the relationship is not always inevitable. And there's lots of examples I'm sure you can think of. Theories of the middle range, relatively limited in scope and can be tested directly by gathering empirical evidence. And grand theories, general, they're abstract, generally offer few direct indications of how to collect information to test them, but provide ways of looking at the world that can inspire a wide variety of research programs. So resiliency would be an example of a grand theory. What else? It's important to note that not all social science research makes specific mention of a theory. For example, rich description of experiences of a group of people without providing a comprehensive theory as explanation. Traditionalists expect research to have direct connection to theory. And non-traditional work can provide insights to develop conceptual toolkit, linkages by case studies. They can make linkages to other work, such as research, literature review style. It could be used to evaluate or devise theory in the future. Sorry, that was Wayne, Dr. Caldwell emailing me, but I will get to him in a sec as well. In this example, I would be a non-traditional. I'm not, I don't require direct connection to theory. What is the relationship between theory and research then? Theory can guide research, how the collection and analysis of data can be used to test theories. Theory can also follow upon or arise from the collection of analysis of data. You can have deductive or you can have an inductive approach to research. A deductive approach, then, it's the most common approach. It's the process of deduction or deducing something. Theory, hypothesis, data collection, findings. Hypothesis, confirmed or rejected, revision of theory. And then I ask, what does this remind you of? And it's something that every single one of us has been exposed to, and that is just like the scientific method from back in grade 8. All right, and that, I mean, everyone understands this. What do you think's going to happen? Collect some stuff, develop your thesis, and then look at your findings. Did you confirm or deny? Was it a null hypothesis? This should all ring a lot of bells. So I'm going through this quickly, and then you revise that theory. Within a deductive approach, researcher begins by developing a theory that seeks to explain a particular phenomenon and then deduces specific hypotheses from it that test with empirical data and then are confirmed or rejected. It's important to note that the process is not necessarily linear. Often you go through steps many, many times. For example, a new hypothesis may come to mind during data collection and may change. For some research, research makes no attempt to follow the sequence. So it is important that just because in grade 8 we were told this is the only way forward, it's not necessarily the case, okay? There's lots of moving parts. It's a little bit flexible. Inductive approach. Theories and interpretations are the outcome of the research. So you're doing something, and then at the end of it, you might come up with a theory or an idea. It begins by gathering or examining research relevant to the phenomena being investigated. Data are gathered not to test a theory, but to come up with the information required to construct a theory or the interpretation. This is why data gathering done first, effort to create concepts, theories comes after. After some theoretical reflection, may collect more data to establish the conditions under which the newly developed theory does or does not hold true. This process, the inductive approach, it goes back and forth. It's sort of an iterative process. Practice of deriving theories from qualitative data is sometimes called grounded theory. To be clear, it's not possible to be completely deductive or completely inductive. Rather, there are elements of each usually found with any research project. Induction-based research results in generalizations sometimes. Epistemological considerations. Epistemology as a concept is the notions of what can be known and how knowledge can be acquired. There are three broad positions, or three broad epistemological positions. There are positivism, interpretivism, and symbolic interactionism. Positivism, only phenomena confirmed by the senses can be accepted as knowledge. Principle of empiricism. Ideas must be subjected to the rigors of empirical testing before they can be considered knowledge. Knowledge can also be arrived at through gathering of facts, doing inductions, and so forth, but it's very much a scientific take on knowledge generation. There's a clear distinction between scientific statements, which describe how and why certain phenomena operate the way they do, and normative statements. Normative statements they express a value judgment: should, would, could, ought, that sort of stuff. Positivism assumes a distinction between theory and research and includes elements of both induction and deduction. Often theories and propositions are not testable through empirical observations, are not considered to be genuinely scientific. Lots of criticisms about positivism. Some researchers ignore the fundamental difference between humans. Not everybody obviously considers things the same. Not everybody thinks the same way. It neglects the concepts of feelings of emotion. Science is not value-free, though, and I think everyone understands what that means. Just think of who is paying for science. Think of how, not everything takes place in a lab and so forth. Interpretivism grew out of the epistemological critique of positivism and provides an alternative to the to the type of social science typically done by positivists. Interpretive research argues that it's their role to grasp the subjective nature of people's action. Interpretivists argue that people act on the basis of the meanings that they attribute to their acts. It attempts to understand people's actions, commonly immerse themselves in the social environments frequented by the people they study, tends to be deductive. Weber, one, if not the most famous or infamous theorist in this area. Example of interpretivism would be social interactionism. Mead, he argued that individual self-concepts emerges through an appreciation of the perception of others. Critical approaches to social science. It rejects value-neutral approaches to research. It maintains that research and knowledge should not be considered as ends in themselves, but as a means to be used. For example, Marxists argue that those who own the means of production deceive, constrain, and exploit the weak. What else should we cover here? Now let's jump over to an ontological consideration. So this is a bit of a lecture on isms and ologies, but just in a super small nutshell. Ontology is a philosophical study of being. It examines concepts that are directly related to being, in particular becoming, existence, reality, and categories of being and their relations. You've got a couple big ontological questions. Does social phenomena have an objective reality independent of our perceptions? And is what passes for reality only a set of mental constructs? If your answer is yes to the first question, you're an objectivist. Maintain that there is such thing as social reality and that the job of social scientists is to discover that reality. If your answer is yes to the second question, you agree with the constructionist position. There are no facts, just interpretations. There's no objective reality against which our conceptions and views of the world can be tested. Why does all this matter? Ontological assumptions and commitments affect both the way research questions are formulated and the way research is carried out. For example, if you see an organization as an objective, formal reality entity that acts on individuals, you're likely to emphasize their formal properties. If you're interested in the negotiated, changing nature of organizations, likely to focus on the active involvement of people in reality construction. Each requires a different research design. Basic difference then, looking at qualitative and quantitative. Quantitative uses numbers, qualitative primarily uses words. We're going to do it at quant. We're going to do a little bit of qualitative in here. I know that there's a tendency for people to get their back up around quantitative statistics. We're not going to do hardcore stats in this class, but the reality is that every single one of us likes numbers. We've been taught for years not to. I mean, you might have had a bad math teacher and it really turned you off math, but we all understand numbers. It's a universal language. So it's really critical that as researchers and as new researchers, you have a decent grasp on the strength and the importance of quantitative statistics and quantitative considerations. That being said, I really don't think quantitative statistics provides the whole picture. I think you need to be able to offer some qualitative components, some rich description to contextualize the data that you've collected quantitatively. So I think they're both really, really important. What else can I talk about here? There's a whole bunch of things that influence the way in which we conduct research, and one of which is values. Social scientists aren't always influenced by value presuppositions that have implications, they're always influenced by value presuppositions that have implications for the conduction of research. I mean, it's not really possible not to have this. We're all humans. Social facts are objects whose study require all preconceptions must be eradicated. Do we not get influenced all the time? What is an example? Sympathy. We sympathize. I get really cranky when people say I empathize with people. Unless you've experienced it yourself, it's really difficult to empathize. You can have sympathy though. It's important that we self-reflect, that we have reflexivity in everything we do, such as confessions. Getting into what a research question is, this is what drives the orientation, design, and method of a project. A research question or research goal is critical. It states the purpose of the study, should arouse curiosity. So quantitative questions generally ask whether a variable or set of variables has influence on the phenomena of interest. Qualitative questions tend to be less specific and generally not designed to evaluate causal models. They're more typically open-ended, they're more typically evolving, they're more typically non-directional, and often you're looking for multiple interpretations. A good research question will be as clear as possible, so it's understandable. So in this class, I have word limits for a reason, because you need to learn to write concisely. You need to write clearly. You all want to be planners one way or another. Maybe it's in the research side, maybe it's in the practical side, but the primary job of a planner is to exude knowledge and to be able to explain things adequately to counsel or to the general public. And you need to be able to do so in a clear manner. And that is one of the biggest takeaways of this class. A research question has to be researchable. I know that's probably not a word, but that is what it is. It must allow for the development of a research design and the collection of data. This means that extremely abstract terms may not be suitable. It must relate in some way to existing studies that suggest how your question may be approached. Even with a topic that has not been widely researched, there will probably be some relevant literature. Establishing connections with the existing studies will help to show how your research can make a contribution to the existing knowledge on the topic. A good research question must be linked to other research questions in the study so that you can develop a single argument or at least a set of related arguments. This is hard to do with unrelated research questions, and it also must neither be too broad nor too narrow. Obviously, it is critical to come up with a really key research goal or research question, and grad students, especially master's students, often design a research question that's really, really great, but way, way too big. Okay, so I mean, I love conducting research, and there's so many things that you can get passionate about and research, but you have to make sure it's something that's manageable. And you'll hear me kind of talk about this throughout the semester a few times. Now, I also wanted, normally when we're face-to-face, we kind of end with this, kind of like my tips on becoming a grad student and what it's like and how it all kind of works out, because this is new for all of you, unless you've done a graduate degree somewhere else. A grad degree and becoming a grad student it's different than being an undergraduate student. As an undergraduate student, you kind of follow a path, and at the end of it, you get your degree. There's very little flexibility. Grad students, typically, you have so much more flexibility. Your time is your own more often than not. Yes, you have a lot of courses in this program, but No one's going to be hounding you too much. The most important relationship you have while you're grad students is with your supervisor. Your supervisor is an excellent source of information and guidance, but ultimately you're all adults. So you can bug your supervisor as much as you want, but I mean, we typically supervise anywhere between 8 and 12 students a year, plus any work study students, plus any undergraduate supervision or any students that we're involved with outside of the department or outside of the school. It says make a plane. That's obviously supposed to say make a plan. Make a list, have some deadlines. If something's due October 3rd, have it done October 1st. I mean, I know that's probably not realistic, but use your time wisely. I am someone that if I have too much time, I kind of waste it. I'm better when I'm busy, and I'm better when I have a really tight schedule. I recommend everybody makes a schedule. Everyone uses the calendar function. Everyone makes a list. Everyone does everything they can to make sure they're organized. If you want to have a meeting with me, please email me and set one up, and it'll go directly into my calendar. If I want a meeting with you, I will email you, and I would like you to put it into your calendar. Your lit review is your first assignment. I would recommend you get started on that sooner than later, because it is, especially if you've never done one, it can be a real slog to get through. This is just the first part of prepping your research. And you also want to spend time going through all of the components of your research with your supervisor. So the lit review is something that can be done for this class. We're starting to get the ball rolling, but when it comes to your actual research, you want to have a conversation with your supervisor about how they want that done. You want to spend as much time getting ready for this degree before you get into the field, and what all the components are. Talk this through with anybody you want to. You can obviously reach out to your supervisor, but if you would rather, all of us will help you anyway. So contact whoever you feel comfortable with. Develop relationships with as many people as you can. There's a number of different resources across campus, and a lot of them obviously are digital right now. So that's really important as well. Anyway, that is roughly it from today. I hope this has been helpful. I hope the videos get better. And I will be on Microsoft Teams online Tuesday at 9:30. I would love to see you all there. That would be fantastic. We can answer questions as a group. I can answer them individually. We can do whatever it is that best suits everybody, okay? Thanks very much, and I hope this helps.